There are two kinds of plant reproduction. We have the sexual reproduction and the asexual reproduction. Let's first look at the sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction involves two fundamental processes: meiosis, which arranges the genes and reduces the number of chromosomes, and fertilization, which restores the chromosomes to a complete diploid number. In between these two processes, different types of plants and algae vary, but many of them, including all land plants, undergo alternation of generations with two different multicellular structures, a gametophyte and a sporophyte. The gametophyte is the multicellular structure that is haploid, thus containing a single set of chromosomes in each cell. The gametophyte produces male or female gametes, or both, by process of cell division called mitosis. The fusion of male and female gametes, that's fertilization, produces a diploid zygote, which develops by mitotic cell divisions into a multicellular sporophyte. The mature sporophyte produces spores by meiosis, sometimes referred to as reduction division, because the chromosome pairs are separated once again to form single sets. In mosses and liverworts, the gametophyte is relatively large, and the sporophyte is a much smaller structure that is never separated from the gametophyte. In ferns, gymnosperms, and flowering plants, that's angiosperms, the gametophytes are relatively small, and the sporophyte is much larger. In gymnosperms and flowering plants, the megagametophyte is contained within the ovule, and the microgametophyte is contained within a pollen grain. Now let's make things simpler. Angiosperms are flowering plants. Fruits develop from the ovaries of a flowering plant. Angiosperms have flowers, and these are the reproductive aspects of the plant. It is made up of the male reproductive organ and the female reproductive organ. For the male aspect, we have the stamen, and for the female, we have the pistil. Some of these flowers contain only one part, either the male or the female. The pistil is made of the stigma, the style, and the ovary. The male part, which is the stamen, consists of the filament and the anther. The anther is responsible for producing the pollen grains. The ovary is the aspect where fertilization occurs. Other parts of the plant or the flower are the sepals and the petals. Next, we have pollinators. Pollinators could be birds or insects. These transfer pollen grains. Pollen is a yellow dust that these pollinators transfer. The transfer process is known as pollination. Petals are parts of the plant with peculiar scent and beautiful colors for the attraction of these pollinators. What actually attracts these pollinators is the nectar. It's a source of food for these animals rich in carbohydrates. Bees, for example, get to the flower to take a sip on the nectar. Then these bees brush themselves onto the pollen and fly away to another plant to take another drink. Mature pollen grains consist of two kinds of cells, the tube cell and the generative cell. Pollen grains uses a tube cell to burrow through the pollen tube from the stigma to the ovary. They burrow their way and enter the ovary through an opening called the micropyle. The generative cell divides into two stem cells. These two stem cells are going to target an ovule. There are multiple ovules, but these sperm cells would fertilize one of these and form it into a seed. Inside the ovule, there are two major aspects. Aside the numerous parts, we have the egg cell and two polar nuclei. One of the sperm cells fertilizes the egg to form a zygote, and the second sperm cell joins the other two polar nuclei. This unity will develop into the endosperm, and this is known as double fertilization. The endosperm is sort of the food bank for the seed to develop. The ovary grows into the fruit and the ovules develop into the seed. Even though some plants have the anther and the stigma, other plants will accept pollen from other plants and not ones from their own. Thus, they do not allow self-pollination. Let's be mindful that plants aside pollinators could transfer their pollen grains by wind or by water. Some plants have these hairy anthers that hangs down loosely, stick with large surface area, and so the wind blows their pollen away and it gets transferred to a nearby plant or flower. Same for water. Asexual reproduction does not involve the production and fusion of male and female gametes. Asexual reproduction may occur through budding, fragmentation, spore formation, regeneration, and vegetative propagation. Asexual reproduction is a type of reproduction where the offspring comes from one parent only, thus inheriting the characteristics of the parent. Asexual reproduction in plants occur in two fundamental forms: vegetative reproduction and agamospermy. Vegetative reproduction involves a vegetative piece of the original plant producing new individuals by budding, tillering, etc., and is distinguished from apomixis, which is a replacement of sexual reproduction and in some cases involves seeds. Apomixis occurs in many plant species such as dandelions and also in some non-plant organisms. Seeds generated by apomixis are a means of asexual reproduction involving the formation and dispersal of seeds that do not originate from the fertilization of the embryo. Most plant species that employ vegetative reproduction do so as a means to perennialize the plants, allowing them to survive from one season to the next and often facilitating their expansion in size. A rhizome is a modified underground stem serving as an organ of vegetative reproduction. The growing tips of the rhizome can separate as new plants. Prostate aerial stems, called runners or stolons, are important vegetative reproduction organs in some species. Adventitious buds form on roots near the ground surface, on damaged stems, or on old roots. These develop into above ground stems and leaves. A form of budding called suckering is a reproduction or regeneration of plants by shoots that arise from an existing root system. Bulbous plants such as onion reproduce vegetatively by dividing their underground bulbs into more bulbs.